This is the true story of how I found Felix, a tiny puppy desperately digging at the place where his mother, Shadow, was buried. He wouldn't stop. He wouldn't leave her. But when I wrapped him in my jacket and brought him home, everything shifted. With the help of my friend Sarah and my dog Jax, Felix slowly learned to trust again. He went from a broken little soul digging in the dirt to a happy, playful dog who sleeps with his paws in the air. His mother didn't get a happy ending, but her son did. And this is how it happened. I heard a sound that made me stop walking. A puppy was digging in the dirt, crying like his heart was breaking. When I got closer, I realized what he was digging for, and everything changed. I wasn't planning to rescue anyone that day. I was just taking a walk, lost in my own thoughts, when I heard crying. Not the kind you ignore, the kind that reaches inside your chest and pulls. What I found next broke me, but it also showed me what love really means. This is the story of Felix, and how a puppy digging at his mother's grave taught me that sometimes the smallest lives carry the biggest lessons. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe so you don't miss more rescues like Felix's. And drop a comment below telling me what you would have done if you heard that cry. Would you have stopped? I'd love to hear from you. I wasn't looking for anything that day. I was just walking, thinking about nothing important. Then I heard it. A cry. Not loud, not dramatic, just broken. I stopped because it didn't sound like a dog barking. It sounded like someone who didn't know what else to do. I followed the sound and saw a tiny puppy digging at the ground. Dirt was everywhere. His paws were shaking. He kept stopping, crying, then digging again. I stood there frozen. Something in me already knew this wasn't a random hole. I got closer. The puppy didn't even notice me. He just kept going, over and over, like he was searching for something he couldn't lose. His little body was trembling. His nose was covered in dust. And then I saw it. Under the dirt. A small shape. Another puppy. Not moving. My chest tightened. I knelt down slowly, trying not to scare him. He looked up at me for just a second. His eyes were red and wet. Then he went back to digging. He wasn't giving up. He was trying to wake someone who wasn't waking up anymore. I didn't know what to do. I just knew I couldn't walk away. The puppy kept pushing his nose into the dirt like he expected her to answer. I knelt down and saw the shape in the ground. Someone had buried his mother there. Later, I'd learn her name was Shadow, but in that moment, she was just absence. The puppy looked up at me. His face was filthy. His eyes were tired in a way puppies shouldn't be. I whispered, "Hey. Hey, little one." He didn't run. He didn't growl. He just cried harder. That's when I knew I couldn't leave. I reached out my hand slowly. He flinched but didn't move away. I touched his head gently and he went still, like he'd been waiting for someone to tell him it was okay to stop digging. His whole body was shaking, not from cold, from everything. I looked at the dirt pile, at his raw little paws, at the way he kept glancing back down like maybe she'd move if he checked one more time. My throat got tight. How long had he been out here alone? How many hours had he spent trying to bring her back? I didn't have answers. I just knew one thing. He wasn't staying here anymore. Not like this. Not alone. I took off my jacket and wrapped him in it. He fought for a second, then went still, like he had finally run out of strength. I called my friend Sarah while holding him close. My voice shook when I told her what I found. She didn't ask questions. She just said, "Bring him. We'll figure it out." As I walked away, I looked back at the hole. I felt like I was stealing him from his mother. I hoped she would understand. The puppy didn't make a sound the whole way. He just pressed himself into my chest like he was trying to disappear. I kept one hand on his back, feeling his heart beat through the jacket. It was so fast. Too fast. I started talking to him. not saying anything important, just letting him know he wasn't alone anymore. When I got to Sarah's place, she opened the door before I could knock. She looked at the dirty bundle in my arms and her face went soft. "Oh no," she whispered. "What happened to him?" I told her everything. The digging, the grave, the way he wouldn't stop trying. She didn't say much after that. She just brought out a towel and some water. We both knew this was just the beginning. At Sarah's place, we cleaned him up. He ate like he hadn't eaten in days. Maybe he hadn't. Sarah laughed softly and said, "He looks like scraps someone forgot to throw away." The name stuck. Scraps. That night he cried in his sleep. Little sounds. I slept on the floor beside him. Every time he moved, I touched him so he'd know someone was there. He'd wake up suddenly, like he forgot where he was. Then he'd see me and settle back down. It happened over and over. I didn't mind. I couldn't imagine what he was dreaming about, what he kept going back to in his head. Sarah checked on us around midnight. She didn't say anything, just left a blanket next to me and walked back to her room. I watched Scraps breathe, in and out, his little chest rising and falling. He looked so small under the light from the hallway, so breakable. I kept thinking about that hole in the ground, about how close he'd come to being left there forever. My hand stayed on his side. I wasn't sure if I was comforting him or myself, maybe both. I just knew I wasn't letting go. Not tonight, not ever. I already had dogs at home. I was scared they wouldn't accept him. I was scared I wasn't ready for another responsibility. But when I opened the door, everything went quiet. My dog sniffed him slowly. No growls, no tension. Jax walked over and lay beside Scraps like it was the most natural thing in the world. Scraps leaned into him and sighed. That was the moment my house became his. I stood there watching them. Jax was my oldest. He'd never been that gentle with anyone. But somehow he knew. He knew Scraps needed something different, something softer. The other dogs settled around them in a circle, like they were protecting him without being told to. Scraps looked up at me once, then closed his eyes. For the first time since I found him, he looked safe. I sat down on the floor with all of them. My chest felt heavy in a good way. I'd been so worried about how this would work, about whether I could handle one more. But looking at Scraps tucked into Jax's side, breathing steady and calm, I realized something. He wasn't one more. He was exactly who was supposed to be here. And they all knew it before I did. Scraps followed me everywhere. If I left the room, he panicked. If I sat down, he climbed into my lap. He still dug sometimes, in the yard, in his bed. I never stopped him. I knew what he was looking for. But slowly the digging stopped. The crying stopped. His tail came up. His eyes softened. One day, I looked at him and said, "You're not Scraps." He tilted his head at me like he was listening. Really listening. His ears perked up and he wagged his tail just a little. It was the first time I'd seen him do that without being scared it would stop. I scratched behind his ear and he leaned into my hand. Not like he needed it. Like he wanted it. There's a difference. I could feel it. He started playing with the other dogs. Gentle at first. Like he didn't trust it yet. But then one afternoon he grabbed a toy and ran. Just ran. Full speed across the yard with Jax chasing him. And he was laughing. I swear he was laughing. I sat on the porch watching him. My throat got tight again. But this time it wasn't sad. It was something else. Something like relief. Like watching someone remember how to be alive. I named him Felix. It means lucky. Not because of what he found with me, but because of what he survived before me. Felix and Jax became inseparable. They slept together, ate together, got into trouble together. Watching them felt like watching healing happen in real time. Sometimes Felix would sit quietly and stare into space. I'd sit with him. We didn't need to talk. I wondered what he was thinking about in those moments. If he remembered her? If he remembered that hole in the ground? I hoped he did. Not in a painful way, just in a way that kept her close. One evening, Felix brought me his toy, just dropped it at my feet and looked up at me. It was such a small thing, but it meant everything. He was asking me to play, not because he was scared, not because he needed comfort, just because he wanted to. I threw the toy and he ran after it, brought it back, did it again, and again. We played until the sun went down and the yard got dark. Jax watched from the porch, tail wagging like he was proud. When we came inside, Felix curled up next to me on the couch, his head on my leg, breathing slow and easy. He was home, really home. Felix doesn't dig anymore. Now he runs. He plays. He sleeps on his back with his paws in the air like nothing bad ever happened. But I remember. I remember the hole. I remember the crying. I remember how close I came to walking away. His mother, Shadow, didn't get a happy ending, but her son did. And every time Felix looks at me, I know love didn't erase his past. It gave him a future. Sometimes I think about that day, about the sound that stopped me, about how easy it would have been to keep walking, to tell myself it wasn't my problem, to convince myself someone else would help. But no one else was there. It was just me, and him, and a choice. I look at Felix now, sprawled out in the sun with Jax beside him, and I can't imagine a world where I didn't stop, where I didn't listen, where I didn't kneel down in the dirt and promise him something better. He saved me as much as I saved him. He reminded me that sometimes the best things in life aren't planned. They're just heard, felt, chosen. Felix is sleeping now, his chest rising and falling. Peaceful, safe, loved. And I'm right here, where I'll always be. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe so you don't miss more rescues like Felix's.